Stop me if you've heard this before, but Kirby Smart and the University of Georgia, lo and behold, have the #1 recruiting class in the country. I was under the impression we were getting manhandled by other schools, but apparently not. Next on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back. This is Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. He is Daniel. I am Clint. Together, we coalesce into Locked On Bulldogs. Thank you for the everydayers. Convalescence is happening. Thank you for the everydayers, the first listeners, and the first-time listeners, and everybody who listens all the way to the third segment. This just in, Kirby Smart is absolutely burning on the recruiting trail. I don't care what anybody else says about guys going from Georgia to another state. Kirby is absolutely frying them. New #1 class, a few notable risers and new additions. And then lastly, federal guidelines restricting pay for play. What the heck does it mean? But first, let's start with this, Daniel. You said, stop me if you've heard this, Kirby Smart cooking on the trail, just absolutely making his bread with Jimmy's and Joe's, and it's happening again. Daniel, the reclassification of certain grades, certain star players, we have long said is not a science, it is an art. We cannot go ahead beholden to it. However, it does indicate good things because those lotto tickets have a higher percentage chance of hitting, and that's what recruits are. By the way, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, FanDuel.com. We have long since said that, and that is the official position of Locked On Bulldogs. It's also the official position of Locked On Bulldogs that the more lotto tickets you have with higher star rating, the better chances you have of being a very, 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 very good team. Okay, two things can be true at the same time. Kirby is now, right, today, positioned with the #1 recruiting class after reclassification, a couple new additions we're going to talk about. Daniel, is this a big deal? Is this a Kirby doing good things and people shutting up after you said he's getting shoved into lockers by Steve Sarkisian? What does this mean? Put this in perspective for the people.
Well, again, we talked on our last episode about Texas and their recent wins on the recruiting trail, most notably Tyler Atkinson over Georgia and Kirby Smart at times. And we said at the time, Texas has managed to scratch and claw. Very scrappy institution, Texas is. They've managed to scrap and claw their way up to #6 in the recruiting rankings, several spots below the University of Georgia. And listen, it's an indicator of how successful you are, right? When you're failing and still you're dominating the rest of your so-called peers in your profession, right? Does that make sense? People love to watch Tom Brady lose football games because he's the winningest quarterback in NFL history. People love to watch stars fail because of the novelty of it. But then you turn around at the end of the day and you look and they're still outpacing and outperforming everyone in their industry. That's what Kirby Smart is doing. This is not his most dominant recruiting class. And we have said there's going to be diversity, especially at the very top of college football recruiting, because you're just NIL is simply going to flatten out the landscape quite a bit, right? And so you're going to have that diversity. You're going to have schools like Texas Tech signing a 5-star offensive tackle. Yes, you heard me. Texas Tech. Maryland has a 5-star edge rusher in the fold right now. Houston has a 5-star quarterback that they've signed from the 2026 class. Like, there's going to be diversity at the top. But recruiting classes are still going to be built, Clint, year in and year out on evaluation. A coach's ability to evaluate talent, hit on talent, and then develop that talent once they get onto campus. And when you see guys jump in the recruiting rankings, Georgia haters love to talk about, they got that Georgia bump. They committed to Georgia, and then the recruiting services gave them a bump. And you know what I'm here to say? Probably.
Yes. What that means is Kirby's a better evaluator than everybody else. And if he wants them, guess what? They're likely good.
Kirby's entire staff. Kirby has unpaid interns. Categorically better at evaluating recruits than everyone in the paid recruiting industry. And so, of course, they're going to change their valuations based on who wants these kids. And so, yeah, some kids are getting Georgia bumps. What that tells you is that these guys are rising up these boards because they are the premium players in this class. Like that, they are rising up the boards because they are showing that they were a little bit hidden. Maybe they were a little bit lower than they should have been initially in these recruiting services and these recruiting rankings. Maybe they didn't go to as many camps, maybe whatever. But as more and more evidence starts to come out, what you're seeing is that the cream is rising to the top. And so a lot of these Georgia players are rising right up the boards.
Yeah.
And that's what you should expect, because Georgia's evaluating and going after not just the top of the class guys, but a plethora of top talent in college football.
Look, it's not often that I get to say I knew more than him, because he's a very knowledgeable guy and we love Brooks Austin. I had him on the show. I said, who's going to be these risers up the recruiting rankings? I gave Okboku as the name that I said, I think he's going to get the 5th star. Brooks said, nah, his ceiling's high, but his floor is really low. He's not a technician. A 5-star kid's just a dude that's not going to miss. I'm like, well, we've missed on 5-star kids before.
Yeah.
5-star kids have been like, come
on. Let me stop you right there.
Trenton Thompson.
Yeah.
Just the name should be like, ugh. He declared for the draft, and then his college football career ended when he declared because he didn't get drafted. Anyway, I digress. Okboku does go ahead and get that bump. Dandridge comes up, gets that huge leaps and bounds bump.
Mm-hmm.
It's real because, again, if you want to make your hay in college football, there's a couple ways you go. Number one, you can spot a kid. It's kind of like getting in stocks when it's before the climb starts, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And if you could just tell, you're like, boom, I want that. Okay, great. You got the stock before it was ridiculously expensive. Secondly, you absolutely know how to get the most out of your players. Thirdly, you're just a better schematic guy. You just can game plan and predict a coach better. Kirby Smart can do all three, but notably, he gets stock. He buys stock low on kids. And you see this with Okboku. You see this with Dandridge. You see this with a number of other guys. Talk about running backs again. Nate Frazier, not the number one on people's board, number one on Nick Saban's board, number one on Kirby's board last year. You can go ahead and keep all the other guys because he is better than all of them. This is indicative of. I'm going to come back before we talk about Dandridge and Okboku and what that means. I'm going to talk about how impressive this is, because we've talked about it. This is a leveled landscape. The number one recruiting class today is more important than the number one recruiting class 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Today, having the number one recruiting class is more important for Georgia than it was 5 years ago.
You're going to have to tell me why in segment 2, Clint.
I'm going to try to do.
I think I'm going to disagree with you, but maybe you'll talk me into it. We'll see.
But first, these.
No, but first, these.
These are, in fact, FanDuel Summer Sports Full Spring. Whenever you're thinking about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel's best way to make every game even more exciting. They're already incredible action. You're there, you're watching these golfing events, you're watching baseball, you're watching soccer. So why not enjoy a little bit more with FanDuel? Get in the game without getting sunburned at the beach like your friends. It's easy to use, fast to pay out. It makes even regular season games feel like a must-watch event. New to FanDuel, new customers can get $5, or you bet $5, you get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open FanDuel.com today. FanDuel.com or the app today. Get started. Daniel, I told you I was going to convince you of it. Okay.
Number one recruiting class, just to restate the premise here.
Go ahead.
The number one recruiting class you are arguing today is more important to have than the number one recruiting class was to have, say, 5 years ago.
I'm going to try to give
some of this NIL.
I'm going to try to give this to you in a couple different ways.
All right.
Okay. Let's say you and I do not have the same body composition as each other. Okay.
Well, that's accurate.
Okay. Thank you. If you were to lose 10 pounds off of your body, Daniel.
Yeah.
It would be significant based upon the percentage of the body left that is still there. Okay.
Less significant than it would have been a while ago. But yeah, sure.
Okay. I lose 10 pounds off my body composition.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel good.
Sure.
But it's not as significant because the percentage is not as significant with you.
All right.
When you dwindle down, when you're talking about gains, you go, if you're benching 25 pounds and all of a sudden you bench 50 pounds, you go from 50 pounds to 100 pounds, you're doubling your weight. But if you start at 250 and you get to 275, the percentage doesn't look that enormous, but those gains up at the top, they are significant. It's easy for some of these schools, Texas, because you're a Johnny come lately. Texas, don't even try anything. Big 12 championships, big conference.
You probably won several of them.
National champions.
You probably a lot recently.
A lot. Just in the history of the school, but a lot. Even recently. No. For you to make the playoff, it's a big deal. For Kirby to make the playoff, again, it's a down year when we lose to Notre Dame in the second round because our expectation is national championship game. When Kirby gets a number one recruiting class, he's been doing it in kind of the Wild West before. But now there's more eyeballs, there's more money, there's more coaches, there's more shared equity across the board. You said Maryland. I'm talking stupid teams that are going nowhere. Texas Tech is not going anywhere. Colorado, even with Sanders and his group of guys that he brought with him. This is where Kirby, it's so much more important because he is fighting off the Johnny-come-latelys who just have money. He is fighting off the established schools that are slipping. Alabama, I'm looking straight at you. You are slipping. I don't care. Okay. He's still rising to the cream of the crop. And so a number one recruiting class this year is more important than 5 years ago, because 5 years ago, it wasn't Texas Tech. It wasn't those 5 stars weren't being taken. It's dwindling down the pond to which you swim in, and he's getting the big fish with more lines in the lake. Daniel, he's getting the gains when he's already gained a ton, when he's already fit as a fiddle, and he's getting more. It's more impressive. It's more important because it's continued success as things flatten out. The elevation of a few hundred feet compared to flat is still significant, and Kirby is standing out. He's a giant. When everybody else is gaining ground, he's still keeping the same distance from them. It's more impressive. It's more important for the longevity of Georgia's success, what he's doing this year, than it was 5 years ago.
Okay. You didn't have me agreeing with you at all until the very last point. That I will concede that to get the number one recruiting class now is a more impressive feat than it was 5 years ago. It is harder and therefore is more impressive, right? Like if I win a pickup basketball game against you versus if I win a pickup basketball game, let's say against LeBron James, it's a more impressive feat, one versus the other. But that was not the premise. That's why I restated the premise.
Okay.
That was not the premise. The premise is it's more important now for Georgia for Kirby to get. Now, more impressive? Yes, I will concede. More important? No. And let me tell you why. I'm going to give you layman's terms, and then I'm going to back it up with some numbers. I don't want you to get lost in the numbers first. And so I'm going to tell you what these numbers are going to prove out. But in simple terms, here's the reality. Because there is more disparity at the top of these recruiting classes, it means that there will be arguments to be made. This is a bit of a predictive statement based on this year and years to come, based on what's happening with NIL. But I am predicting that there will be arguments to be made that the team ranked 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th in the recruiting rankings might have actually signed the best recruiting class. Now, in years past, I'm going to argue that is in no way, that is categorically false. Now, I know some players hit and some players don't hit. I'm not talking even about that. I'm not talking about post-career evaluations, like re-ranking them. I'm saying that when you look at the discrepancy between the top classes, Clint, last year there was 8 points of difference on 24/7 Sports. So that's the top class 312, the second class 304, the third class 298, 6 points less. 2024 there was 7 points. But now let's keep going back. Let's get into that range. 2023 there was a 12-point disparity between the number 1 and the number 2 class. In 2022 there was an 11-point disparity between the number 1 and the number 2 class. In 2021, Clint, there was 1 and 2 were separated by 6 points. 2 and 3 were separated by 26 points. Okay, so there were very clear winners in recruiting. Very clear upper echelon. If you sign the number 1 class, chances are it was way better than any other class in the country just by the numbers. 2026, Clint, Georgia has the number 1 class currently. Would you want to know what the margin is? It's 1 point. Do you want to know what the margin is between 2 and 3? It's a handful of points, like 1, 2 points. All of these 304, 303, 294, 294, 293, 289, all of these recruiting classes are bunched up together at the top because that's what the NIL is going to do. It's going to bunch up at the top. There's going to be a lot of teams signing very similar classes. And if a lot of teams are signing very similar classes, then you could be 2, you could be 3, you could be 4, because your class is basically just as good as the number 1 class.
Well, okay, then Alabama's not slipping, Daniel. Then USC is not.
I didn't say Alabama was slipping in recruiting.
I'm asking you. You're telling me you don't think
Alabama's crushing it in recruiting these days. I mean, they're doing better recruiting with Kalen DeBoer than I thought they were. Absolutely.
That's true. I'm not refuting that statement.
Now, are they slipping? Yeah, because what Alabama was doing under Nick Saban was pre-NIL, and they were beating teams by 20 points, like the number 1 class, 20 points better than the number 2 class. So, like, that's what I'm trying to say is it used to be when you signed the number 1 class, most years that class was way better than all the rest.
The margin of error, it's like the Olympics. You win on like 9.8 versus 9.78, like on a grading scale. Those 0.02 points matter an enormous amount. What you're saying
not
is
in
so different. They're so small.
Now, because see, I reject that premise because you don't win football games based on recruiting classes.
That's not what I'm saying. What you're saying is that it's a science and the measurables, the difference between them.
No, what I'm saying is the numbers are so close that both those classes, when coached well and given the right circumstances, both of those classes could win you all the football games.
Which is
all
what I'm
three of the top classes, all 5 of the top 5 classes, all 7 of the top 7 classes, they could all win you a national championship because they're all bunched up together. That's why it's not as important to be number 1 anymore, because number 3 is basically the same as number 1. But if you were number 3 in 2021, like, you weren't even in the neighborhood of some of these other schools.
You're saying that recruiting is a science now, Daniel. I reject your philosophy.
No, there are numbers involved according to 24/7 Sports. So that's all
I've said. I don't care about that, though. What I'm saying is he's up there at number 1. According to industry standards, he's still getting it. So science is there, and art is there, and development is there. What I'm saying is hitting all the bases. But you're saying that
I'm saying if he drops to number 4, in 2021, that would have been a huge deal. If Kirby finished number 4 in 2020, back then, that would have been, we wouldn't have been where we wanted to be. But right now, you can finish number 4 and be where you want to be because you're basically the same as number. It's like qualitatively, they're basically the same. That's what I'm arguing.
Well, let
us know in the comments.
As Daniel continues to say that Kirby and Notre Dame recruit at the same level, and as Ryan Day and Kirby recruit at the same level.
Clint, they do.
They don't.
Average recruit for Georgia this cycle is 92.2. The average recruit for Notre Dame this cycle is 92.3.
What I'm saying is
they are the same.
Those numbers don't mean anything. That's what I'm trying to say.
They're the same.
They're not the same.
We can admit it. It's okay. Right? Marcus Freeman's having a great year recruiting. They're the same.
Marcus Freeman's a great coach. Just so we're fully aware.
Also whipped our ass. That's fine.
Marcus Freeman is the third best coach in college football.
Yeah, it's Georgia's got 30 commits. We're the number 1 class. I'm happy to be there. What I'm trying to tell you is, if we're within 5-6 points of the number 1 class and we finish 3rd, 4th, that's fine. We're basically the same.
We're you know what? Together we can make up one man. On our own, we couldn't. But
I'm not a man.
We're going to come back after this. And executive orders for college football. What in the world does it mean? But first, after these.
Clint, there's nothing we like talking about more on this podcast than executive orders. We like combing through political documents. If you know us well, then you know that we make this a mainstay of our show. But when it applies to the University of Georgia, and it does, then it feels like something we should talk about. The president signs an executive order going into effect, which is essentially going to alter the landscape in some way of the NIL as it relates to college football. This has been in the works for a while. There's been task forces and committees and all sorts of nonsense made up positions that have been created to look into this. We've been saying that regulation is coming for college football. This appears to be a step towards regulation in college football, essentially prohibiting money from changing hands to student athletes from third-party sources, meaning Johnny Donor can no longer just give a wad of cash to Johnny Recruit in order to get him to come to said school. All of the money that changes hands has to come through the university. So, Clint, I ask you because I genuinely have no idea. So do not throw this question back to me because I do not know the answer. I ask you, what does this mean for the University of Georgia specifically and for college football?
By the way, really quick, can you name the 6 presidents who played college football? Daniel, can you take a guess as to some of them?
Gerald Ford.
Okay, you got the number 1, and he was quite good.
He was good.
He was
good. He was quite good.
He was quite good.
I cannot name any more than that.
Dwight
he played in Michigan, though, right?
He played in Michigan.
Gerald Ford played in Michigan.
Yeah, he was fantastic. MVP. Dwight Eisenhower played for Army. Ronald Reagan played.
Dwight Eisenhower. Jeez.
Ronald Reagan played at Eureka College.
I was gonna guess Ronald Reagan.
Richard Nixon played at Whittier down in the LA Basin. 5'11", 175.
Tailback.
Tackle. He played tackle.
Oh, Whittier. 5'11", 175. We recruiting a lot of 5'11", 175 tackles.
Whittier College. John F. Kennedy played over at Harvard. How
about it?
And then Donald J. Trump played at New York Military Academy, Daniel. So he's coming from experience, is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay. Here's what it means, Daniel. I'll tell you what no one knows what this means. Let me get out in front of it. When the House committee,
glad I'm not alone.
When the House committee made a clearinghouse, when they made a law that said you can't pay a player more than an X amount coming from the college without disclosing it, when they did all of this, it's all retroactively trying to duct tape and super glue something together.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're seeing, if you can't see where abuses can happen within this system of college football and 18, 17-year-olds being paid $2.5 million, if you can't see the lunacy of what is a huge risk in that, I can't help you. You're the same you're paying somebody online without knowing who they actually are. That's the type of person you are if you don't understand the risk involved with this. Okay. What this does is it's trying to get more eyes and oversight on it, Daniel. That's what this is attempting to do. Mm-hmm. Will it actually do it? No, because actually the enforcement arm of this is a big question mark. No one knows exactly how it will be enforced. As a matter of fact,
we've had the NCAA for years, and they've been doing a bang-up job of enforcing, Clint. So why don't we just kick it back over to them?
Oh, Daniel, I got some news for you. I have some shocking news. They have done nothing to enforce anything for years.
Shoot.
Yeah. This is another arm without enforcement. This is if you even read the letter of the law, it actually says should a number of times, which if you're a legal expert, which we are not, but Justin B. Tweeten could let us know. Anytime something says should, it doesn't say have to or must. It's kind of like, well, yeah, it's just a great suggestion. It's an executive order that maybe has some teeth, maybe doesn't, who knows. What this is saying, I think the clearest indication is, hey, college football, get your butts in gear. Govern this, regulate it, get it simple, get it clean, get it transparent. Because if you don't, stuff like this is going to keep happening. And one of these stupid things is going to mean a death sentence and a death blow to a university, to a coach, to a player. It's going to get caught up. When things like this aren't clear cut, when the governing body that's supposed to enable college athletes to go ahead and progress in their chosen field, which is what your job is, when it doesn't do that and instead detracts from it, it's a shot across the bow, Daniel. And more of this crap is going to keep happening if you don't get it in gear. So who knows, because it's no enforcement. Does it mean that third parties have it's a risk now? You pay a player without having name, image, and likeness directly linked to what they're doing. Just pay for play. That don't fly. And you could land yourself in hot freaking water. It's a quagmire of crap, Daniel, is what this is.
Yeah. Listen, before anybody goes crazy about how, about the problems with the new system or whatever, legislation, or I'm not necessarily pro or against this legislation because, again, I have no idea what it means. But I do know that regulation is coming.
Yes.
And what we have desperately needed for years is clear and universally enforced regulations.
Correct.
Because, again, if you have the best coach, he's going to dominate on a level playing field. The only way you can beat him is to cheat legally. And so, as the more regulations there are, that's not going to hurt Kirby. No. That's going to help Kirby.
Correct.
I remind you that we are coming from a system in which AJ Green was suspended for 4 games for selling his Independence Bowl jersey and making like $80. He was suspended for 1/3 of the season.
Todd Gurley for $250.
Todd Gurley was suspended for signing a card. Okay, so
do we really want to go back to those days?
I hesitate to say it, but it can't be worse than it was. It can't be worse.
Get it in gear. College football.
Figure it out. He's Clint. I am Daniel. This is the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. We will be back tomorrow talking about the schedule. We're going to start breaking down the 2025 schedule. If you're sick of the offseason, you're ready for the season to start, tomorrow is for you. We'll see you guys then.